Bruchim Habayim, welcome to our new meetup of EOS Israel. We are doing this in English because we're live streaming to the whole EOS community worldwide, and because there are always some new incoming people that don't speak Hebrew or speak better English than Hebrew. So anyway, we're doing this in English. Also, when we're speaking to the other people, please keep your questions in English. And I'm very happy to see you here. We have a lot of new guys joining us, and that's amazing. Who here is the first time in an EOS meetup? Okay, so let's start from the beginning. So who here knows what EOS is? Okay. That's less than the newcomers, so let's start from that. Who knows what Ethereum is? Okay, so most of us know Ethereum, then therefore we know a bit about blockchain, right? So EOS is mainly, if I want to put it simply, is the blockchain that is built on top of EOS.io, which is the open source software that Block One, that Dan Larry Marisetti produced as an open source software, where it serves as a platform where you can build decentralized applications. If I want to put it in a simple way, you know iOS or Android, right? You know that's an operating system with its own rules and its own ways to communicate with the programming language with the device. So this is something similar, but communicates your instructions with the blockchain. And the way that it works is in a different way than Bitcoin and Ethereum. It works in delegated proof of stake. How does that mechanism work? The block producers are in charge of getting all the transactions that are committed to the blockchain, ordering it into the timestamps, verifying that they are valid, and quickly making a block and producing in half a second. And the block producers that get to produce the blocks receive block rewards in form of an annual daily rewards. But how do we pay the block producers? They're paid in inflation. That means the new EOS coins that are created each year, that can be voted if it's going to be less or more. But that is how the transactions in EOS are free. Okay, there are no gas, no transaction fees for users. They're completely free. And of course, there's the issue with what EOS buys you as a developer are resources in the network. Okay, so that's a very kind of like very high-level explanation of what EOS is. And what we're doing today is we're talking about how EOS, after the mainnet launch in June, is getting adopted globally. And we're going to do some checks and balances of where we stand right now in terms of other blockchains and also in terms of global technology adoption. Okay, so if we want to talk about EOS global adoption, first we need to define what is adoption, or how can we measure an innovation adoption? How do we even say, okay, this is widely adopted or this is not? Like, no one can doubt here in this room that smartphones have been widely adopted. But how do we measure a new network or a new blockchain or a new technology that is still in the initial steps, right? We're 3 months from launch. So some of the measures that we could say is, okay, how about we count the amount of users in the network? It could be a measure. Or the network activity. How active is the network in terms of actions? What's happening in the network? Like, if we take into consideration the smartphone network, then the network activity is huge. It's all the time running and being active and really fast. Wealth generated. This is also important. If we want people to develop stuff and develop new technologies within this ecosystem, is it profitable for them? is there enough incentive for a developer to come and develop in this tech? We know that entire companies have built their whole model out of making Android and iOS apps or other kind of software for the network. Google and Facebook, that's what their business is about. What about blockchain? Is there enough money to be made here? It has to be an incentive for developers. Social impact. At the end of the day, we want to see if this new innovation is impacting people in their social lives and their daily lives, like a real day-to-day change, right? And one that I wanted to talk about is that something that's getting very trendy within new innovation development. It's the granny test. So basically, it's kind of to summarize the user experience of a new technology. The granny test is, okay, if you can explain it to your grandmother, and your grandmother can operate this technology by her own, this means that the technology is ready for mass adoption. Like, if your granny can get it, anyone can get it. So this is something you have to take in mind when we're measuring adoption. Okay? So here's a very known graph of the innovation adoption life cycle. For the ones that are wondering, okay, am I too late to get into Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and all this? Just take into consideration that although around 15 to 20% of people have heard about Bitcoin or see it in the news or read about it in Geek Time, actually less than 1% of the population actually owns a cryptocurrency. So take that in mind when you're considering, or maybe this is too late, you need to miss the train. So in terms of real adoption, we're around here, but we believe in terms of social awareness, this past 2 years has put us well around here. So we could say that going into blockchain around this area would make us still early adopters. The early majority, I think, will come when the platforms and the technology is ready to begin mass adoption. Then comes, the late majority that was always still thinking that it was a scam, but then now they have no other way but to use the technology because it's sometimes underlying all the way that we operate in society. And then there's the laggards, or how we call them, Bitcoin maximalists. So that's just an internal joke because, Bitcoin maximalists say, everyone knows what a Bitcoin maximalist is? Okay, so a little explanation for that. Bitcoin maximalists are the ones that claim that all cryptocurrencies are scams, they're worthless, and the only reason that the only purpose they can serve is to trade them in order to get more Bitcoin. So what they say is that Bitcoin is the one and only currency that will ever be useful and exist, and others and scams. There are Bitcoin maximalists from all sorts. You can find professionals like Tone Base, who's the known Bitcoin maximalist. Anyway, look for Bitcoin maximalist. You'll see how they go out of this. I wanted to phrase this. It's a bit old, but it's very relevant to today. This quote says, "Technology is information and exists only to the degree that people can put it into practice and use it to achieve values." Quote by Aviv. What does that mean? That means that over 20, 30 years, what we're creating is information, and we can only measure its relevance into existence if it is creating real value for us. And I think that is a very good explanation of what technology is. So now I'm going to get into the more nitty-gritty details of EOS and how are we looking in terms of other blockchains or other blockchains that exist, particularly Ethereum, because Ethereum is the most adopted blockchain so far, and most of us know Ethereum, and we know the shortcomings, but also we appreciate Ethereum as being the first widely adopted blockchain platform that enables the deployment of smart contracts. This is a great revolution, and this is something that no one can take out of Ethereum. They will always be kind of the great grandfathers of the smart contract blockchain. Okay. Having said that, we have to take a look at a bit about the shortcomings of Ethereum, and I wanted to look about how is EOS doing today according to Blocktivity, which measures all the activities that are being performed in the blockchain. Okay, so since the launch, since the EOS mainnet, the average operations per day that are being registered in EOS are around 4 million, while the operations that are being registered in Ethereum are a bit short of 600,000. Okay, so that makes EOS already 3 months after launch 7 times more active than Ethereum in terms of amount of transactions or operations that are happening in the blockchain. What is really striking, okay, is this little thing over here, this meter. You see this meter over here? This one's a CUI, or a capacity utilization index. What this measures is how is the blockchain capable of scaling more, receiving more transactions, and performing more operations. In that case, you can see that Ethereum is right over here. It's past the 100%, and it has this kind of warning sign. It carries around 40 to 50,000 unconfirmed transactions at any given time. So in Israel, how we would portray Ethereum is when we do like this, right? Chanuk, that's a word in Hebrew for it, which means Ethereum is topped out in terms of performance, and we have Vitalik has said that sharding is coming and that other side chains are coming to improve the scalability. But the fact of the matter now is that Ethereum is working at full capacity with a lot of unconfirmed transactions, and EOS is doing over 4 million transactions a day using 0.36% of the capacity. So you could say in terms of transactions, there are 7 times more transactions. But in terms of capacity, the blockchain is at least 300 times more capable of scaling and producing more transactions. And I think this is amazing. I think this is really groundbreaking, because the mainnet, again, is just getting started. So this is going to scale, this is going to improve, the hardware of the block producer is going to improve, and this is the current state of situation. So regarding the speed, we could say that speed is the same as scalability. The speed of the blockchain is more or less the size of at which it can scale. Because a slow blockchain cannot receive now millions of new users and start operating and performing millions of operations in the network. This is a kind of a funny scheme. This is how I would portray Bitcoin. I was also thinking of getting one of these for my little kid, so that's why I got this picture. Bitcoin is performing around, the max transactions per second Bitcoin can produce is around 7. This is estimated because not every second a Bitcoin block is produced. In Ethereum, the bit rates are around 20 transactions per second. It's generally less, but that's what we've got. Now, up to yesterday, the highest transactions per second we've registered in EOS is 3,996. This means today or tonight or while we speak, we might cross the 4,000 transactions per second. So I think for a blockchain that is less than 3 months old, that is pretty impressive. I don't know of another blockchain that can perform at this speed, maybe theoretically, or maybe at the white paper, but I don't think there's a blockchain out there that's performing at that speed. Maybe someone can correct me. If so, please go ahead. But that's the status of EOS. I think the big question here is, you got more TPS. The blockchain is lightning fast. So what does that give you? What does that allow you? Why is that really important? And I want to give you an example of what you can do when a blockchain is this fast. Okay, when a blockchain is this fast, what you can do is real-time operations in the blockchain. So, anybody has heard of Space Invaders on EOS? Okay, so anyone has played Space Invaders, right? This is a game that EOS Authority created on the blockchain, on the web. Anyone can log in through Scatter, which I'm not gonna explain tonight, but it's kind of a MetaMask for the ones that know Ethereum for EOS. And I want to break down this operation, okay? So this is a game that is played on the EOS blockchain. You know a typical game. This is your spaceship. You're moving left and right, and while you're moving, you're shooting aliens. And if those aliens are shooting back, if they shoot you, you're gone, right? So that's our two basic operations that need to happen. You need to move left, or you need to move right. And that's how you play the game. Those are the rules. I want to get a bit more technical with you and kind of go through this blockchain command. For the ones that know terminal, or even the ones that know programming, this is not going to be complicated, but even for the ones that have never coded and have never seen a line of code, I'm going to break it down for you, okay? So what this does is, EOS, okay, is the command line of EOS, which is basically like your terminal. You know, you've seen the terminals in DOS that they see cd ... and they do some operations and browse files and do whatever. So that's a command line of EOS. Then you use the URL. Now this is the node, for example, that we're going to push. We're going to broadcast our blockchain instruction to. In this case, it's being Liquid EOS, okay? Because they're also one of the main block producers, or were, but they're also closest being to me. So I'm going to send this node, Liquid EOS. I'm going to push an action, which means interact with a smart contract. Okay? The account that holds this smart contract is EOS Authority. It's making the game, right? They're the accounts that hold the smart contract. Space Invaders is a smart contract. The smart contract itself, it's called Space Invader. And then you have two types of this instruction. That's kind of the parameter. One being left, two being right. This is the account that's creating this action, or that's pushing this action. In this case, EOS Israel EOS, which is, by the way, also our voting proxy. I'll get into that for whoever is interested on the depots and the voting scheme after the meetup. So I want to explain quickly what's going on here on the screen, okay? What's going on here on the screen while you're playing online is you push your keyboard, okay? This blockchain action is being recorded by a node on the blockchain. It's being then broadcasted to the block producers that in turn are producing blocks and verifying transactions. The transaction, which is this actual piece of code, which is activate this smart contract, is being verified. It's being added to the block. The block is being produced, as you can see on the top, EOS block produced. It's being added to the blockchain, to the immutable blockchain, and then the program is getting the action back that, hey, the transaction is verified, you can move right. So this is something that can happen today in EOS. So if you can imagine how that would happen in Ethereum, you know, you would first try to push the action, you would wait for confirmations, and you would probably run out of gas because every operation costs you gas and more money is spent. So this is something that, as simple as the game as it looks, we haven't been able to do in blockchain, at least in real time. Check it out. I think there's it's really mind-blowing what we can do in blockchain thanks to new technology and to EOS. So this is this tweet was from 2 days ago, and this struck me really also amazing, because this speaks of the nitty-gritty details. Okay, so there are dApps on Ethereum, there are dApps on EOS. How do you say? Show me the money. Well, this is what's called in Hebrew atachlis. As atachlis. Show me the money. What are Ethereum developers making, and what are EOS developers making? So if you can see, I don't know if you know EOS Bet, and so some of those, the most EOS utilized app. But in Ethereum you have IDEX, you get a lot of apps that are also consuming transaction and charging. So at the moment, Ethereum developers are making in 7 days around $20 million worth of Ether, whereas EOS developers, and the dApps that are existing right now, are making a total of $35 million of transaction volume within their dApps. So I think that's pretty amazing, because taking into consideration that EOS has been up for less than 3 months, and the dApps that have been sprung out of the system are already making more money than platform where we were building apps for during 4 years. So that's an important point to take into consideration, and that's no wonder why the trend we are seeing right now of the move from Ethereum into EOS, and there are lots of amazing apps that are being developed in the EOS platform. One of those, we have our one of the founders here. Dan is leading and heading the CEO of Ethereum. They're doing a payment network on EOS. As long as, I don't know if they're here in the system, but what you can see are hundreds of apps being developed on the EOS network, and they're all kind of having this new fresh air of what they can focus on. Once the blockchain allows them for real-time transactions and real-time operability, they can focus on the nice things, UX, nice graphics, good user adoption, right? And that's what's happening on the EOS dApp ecosystem. If you know about Block One, the company that created EOS, they have a stockpile of money which they're gathering in the ICO, but they have committed $1 billion to fund development of applications within the space. So there's a lot of interest for new developers to come into the space and start making applications. There's a lot of money to be made, and there's a lot of money to be also generated. If you hold EOS, you have been getting all these airdrops, which is a new funding model, which I believe is a bit more honest than the ICO, because the ICO is saying, hey, give me your money, I'll give you tokens in return, which now are worthless, but if I succeed in my project and we win, then we both win, right? If I fulfill our promises. And the airdrop works differently. So the airdrop is saying, here, have some tokens. I know they're worthless, but you're not spending any money on them. Have them for free. If I manage to create value in these tokens, then we both win. We both have some money, but you haven't risked your own money from starters. So that's dApp, EOS dApp ecosystem. Check it out. Check out the dApps in EOS. There's some amazing stuff being done on the network. Okay? So, along with all these amazing things, and along with the great things that EOS has accomplished in such a short time, we're not short of shortcomings. Okay? And I don't want this only to be a talk about, wow, how wonderful EOS is, everything's going great, and so many transactions per second. And I also wanted to mention the shortcomings of EOS, some of the what I call growing pains, okay, and some things that need to be addressed, need to be fixed, and they haven't been solved yet to a point that, okay, all users are content or are happy to come into the system, okay? Some examples are user account creation, okay? I got two friends that were in crypto, and when I tell them, listen, you gotta take your EOS out of the exchange into a wallet. You're missing out on all the airdrops. And what they tell me is, listen, I don't know about this, and they're into blockchain. They're not external users that have never held a wallet. They're saying, listen, I don't want to pay to create a wallet. I don't know about this RAM and this CPU and this staking that needs to happen. So I've never had to pay to create a wallet, an account on Ethereum or Bitcoin. So why do I need to pay now to create an account? And then you explain that once you create the account, it costs you about $4 or $5, and then you have all transactions free for the rest of your life. But for a starting point, it's still problematic when we have to accept that. RAM, CPU, bandwidth costs, they're very expensive to start up an operation and a company that's going into production and is going to serve thousands of users. You can ask Idan how they started an airdrop when the RAM was at a certain price, then the RAM spiked up, and they're having troubles on to this day to finish their airdrop as originally planned. So now there are all kinds of methods. The users can go air grab their tokens, and there are some solutions, but let's face it, this is not perfect. Okay? The cost of operations for a developer that wants to sit in his computer and put an application on the EOS blockchain are still high. They will probably have to gather some money first. Governance and arbitration. Okay, this is the first real governed blockchain where users vote on changes, which block producers are being operating the network, who's custodian the network, what changes go in, what changes go out, how much inflation is being generated. There are so many decisions that users need to take and can vote on, but if we speak on a real, in reality, most of the users don't want to know about this. They don't want to get into voting. They don't care who's producing the blocks. They don't care who's operating the network. They want to hold the tokens, use the network, use the cool dApps, and that's something that needs to be also watered down and really fixed in order for it to work perfectly. Block producer drama, I won't get into it. We have a link video represented here, and we know how hard block producers are working. Block producers are working not only by themselves for creating great stuff and promoting the community, they're supposed to give back to the community, and that's a whole another subject, but just so you know, it's not a simple issue. Okay, they have to kind of convince all the top EOS users to vote for them, while at the same time being in full cooperation and a friendly relationship with other block producers, so the network can operate. So it's a complex situation. Voting, I went into that. Bugs, there's always bugs. The good thing here is that fixing a bug in the network or fixing a bug in the smart contract is something that can be done really fairly easily compared to what Ethereum has to do in order to fix a bug in the network, which is fork the whole thing. Downtimes, we have some few seconds when a new block producer that was in standby comes online and starts producing. There are some seconds that are having downtimes. What I'm saying with this is EOS has some growing pains. They're known. The thing is not perfect. The thing is evolving really quickly. But at the same time, we have to take into consideration that June 10 of this year was the birth of the EOS mainnet. So we've been live for at least less than 3 months. That's important to take into consideration. Finally, I want to talk about what gets me into EOS and what gets me the most excited about this ecosystem and what I consider to be the EOS #1 feature. And this is the people, the community, and the people that make this ecosystem. I think is the best feature because every time I come into a meetup of EOS, every time I speak with people online, every time I get in touch with either a block producer or a developer of smart contracts or an entrepreneur, and they want to get into EOS, they are always early adopters. They're people that are always willing to help. I think it's an amazing community, and you probably know by now some of the characters that appear in here. They're the smartest people that can be. A lot of them are considered geniuses or rockstar entrepreneurs or amazing media persons or rockstar developers. I think that is the greatest asset of EOS, and that's what gets me involved into the community. So I would like to to end the talk by saying, by inviting you all to join the community and to become part of this, what I consider to be the best blockchain ecosystem so far. We are EOS Israel, join us. This is our Telegram. This is the guy that makes this beautiful artwork. I want to thank enormously to our sponsors, Liquidios and Blockchain AL. This is where we're hosting it right now, and this is really important for us to make this thing happen together. Okay, thank you, and I want you to enjoy the rest of the meetup. Up next, we have Medipedia. We have some projects that are going to explain why did they having a working product on Ethereum, why did they make the change to EOS, okay? So that's our next section. If somebody wants to